back to Attitude, Effort, Results presented by Teamwork Online and the Clubhouse. I've said this a lot, that we have pretty good guests on here, and we have some fun while doing it, and hopefully we impact some people. That's the goal of the podcast. Today is going to be a conversation you guys have never heard before. That I can guarantee you. I met this man at the Daniel Summit, which we've talked about before on here. We've had people attend the Daniel Summit because of the podcast, and this is a man when you spoke, there was a passion, a conviction in your voice that was very intriguing. And so I appreciate you being in person here today. When you guys hear this guy speak, you're going to jump out of your seat. Welcome to the podcast, Lian.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
You said something immediately when you started talking that I think might be something you say consistently.
Okay.
If you're watching today and you're listening,
Yeah.
there's something that might be a little different.
Yeah.
Tell
So
everybody
I was
what
born
we
and
got.
raised in Melbourne, Australia. That's the reason my voice is this way. My mother and father are Malaysian Chinese. That's the reason my appearance is this way. About 8 years ago, my family and I moved to Anderson, South Carolina, about 30 minutes from Clemson, South Carolina, where I get to serve as a teaching pastor at a great church called New Spring Church, and also get to continue my travel and my speaking schedule around the world.
It is the energy that you started speaking with and the energy that you've had today. Just first time meeting, right? We can be transparent with everybody. First time meeting today. A lot of synergies between what we value, strong Christian faith, family, both of our wives, which is important. When you were going through getting to know who you are, what was that process like?
Yeah, I had the questions that every young person has at some point. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to do? And as I chewed through all of that throughout my teenage years, I think I just got more and more confused. As I went forward, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I was passionate about music, I was passionate about the arts, I was passionate about creativity, and I met Jesus when I was 17. And within the context of that burgeoning relationship and becoming a part of a church, I started to really understand the unique thing that God put inside of me, the passions and the burdens that always existed inside of me, and the spaces where all of that could bloom. And so really, like we were talking before, by the time I was finishing up my college, I had a really clear idea of why God put me here on earth. And all it took was a couple of faith steps to start seeing, okay, was that just a dream, or was that something that God really dreamt up?
Wow.
And I believe that every single human being is made with distinct and unique purpose. I also think every human being in their DNA, you have genius interwoven because we're all made in God's image. I think finding our genius and living our purpose and letting that impact people around us, that's the purpose of life.
I told you guys it was going to be good today, and we just started. You talked about there was a passion inside of you.
Yeah.
There was a genius inside of you that you had not yet found at that time. What did you do, and what steps did you have to take to find that? And then once you did that, habits, disciplines that you had to put in place so you didn't go back to the person that was at 17.
So I started following Jesus in my freshman year of college. Through a couple of events, I was asked to share about that publicly and talk about it. And I'd always been a very verbal kind of person. I love drama, I love the arts, I love theater studies. And so being an expressive guy, I found that, I didn't find it difficult, but I had never felt it was as meaningful as when I started talking about what God had done in my life. And so a little spark is lit in my heart, and a few more doors opened within this small community I was a part of in Melbourne, Australia. And before I knew it, it was making a difference in people's lives. And so now I've got something which I feel like I'm naturally good at, and somehow God is in it, so now it feels like I'm supernaturally good at it. and then I'm seeing that it's helping people. And I was in a church with a high migrant population, a lot of people from pretty working class backgrounds. The church that I grew up in had a lot of young people who were from underserved families, pretty rough backgrounds, and so I'm doing my college and I'm working out this friendship with Jesus. I'm talking about it whenever I have an opportunity to, and then all these young people start getting drawn towards our church who are looking for hope and looking for purpose as well. And I knew by the end of my finishing up my economics degree, I knew that I wasn't going to be an accountant. I was going to tell someone who needed some hope about Jesus, and so that was I don't know if in Asian culture we do have options growing up. We get to choose to be a doctor, an accountant, or a lawyer, but those are the only three options you get. So for me to go to my parents and say, I think I want to go work with young people and tell them about Jesus, that was quite a shock to their system, and that was my no turning back.
Wow.
Because my dad, all right, I've paid for your college now, that's it, you're cut off. You go work it out from this point on if you want to go do this Jesus thing. And I walked forward. And so really I didn't have much choice because the ships were well and truly burnt. There was only forward for me. And then to delve in a little bit more, I went and started doing some postgrad study in this field. I did Bible college. I studied to a master's level in theology. And that's why I say a lot of people are super high in passion, pretty low in process going forward. I meet young people all the time who, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Well, what are you doing to upskill yourself? What are you doing to gain some experience? I've got a young guy who's got played college football, wanted a shot at the next level. In fact, had a little taste of a practice camp here in Carolina, but once again to media.
Okay.
And great kid. Like, he looks like he should be on TV, but because he looks like it doesn't mean someone's going to open up a door. So I'm saying start knocking on some doors, start showing up in some places, start doing some training, start showing that you've done the reading, become an absolute expert, like an off-the-planet geek about this stuff. Because when the door opens, you're not going to know if that's the only door that will ever open. You want to have every bit of equipment to take with you through that door. So So for me, at a young age, I understood that I wanted to do this communication thing and this speaking thing. So I studied up, I started training, I printed off some business cards, Lian, Gospel Ninja, Have Sermon, Will Travel, and I gassed up my little 1988 Toyota Corolla twin cam and started driving all over the Australian countryside.
Wow.
Honing my craft. And I encourage anyone who has a dream to recognize that there is so much opportunity every single day to work towards that dream, even though the fullness of that dream hasn't come to fruition yet.
And in what we believe, it's not our job to always have a plan. It's not our job to always say, I'm going to go A, B, C, and D. Maybe my job right now is just to learn. It's just to study. It's just to gain skills, so when God does open the door, or you kick through a window, because sometimes it's not going to be a door that you can just nicely open up. Sometimes you're going to have to kick through a window, but once that does come, now you're prepared to walk through that door, walk to the next door, walk to the next door, and that's how
Most of it's preparation. Most of it's preparation. You know David for killing Goliath, but his whole story, if you actually read the Bible, that Goliath was a moment. His whole life was a preparation. I love how it says in the book of James to consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces in you a perseverance, and the perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be complete complete, mature, lacking nothing. Or in other words, there is a completeness of life, there's a maturity of soul, there is a lacking nothingness that God wants for your journey. But the only way you get there is through the trial and the testing. And that's the reason for me, like, if things aren't panning out, I smile and I go, you know what, here's the test, here's the trial, I have to pass through this to get what God wants to get to me. And that's been my story. I get to do some cool stuff now, like the event that we got to meet at.
Yeah.
But for every 25 minutes of engaging in that kind of work, there's 25 hours of preparing and testing and trial and working. So I would say the vast majority of life is just about finding adversity, resistance, and testing that's going to get you towards the God dream that God has for you, and just working through it.
You've had an opportunity to travel across country to preach God's word, which is incredible. We need more people like you. You've also had a really cool opportunity to mentor kids of all ages, all the way up to professional athletes. We're talking the top people in the world. What are some of the challenges that you've seen people overcome that you feel comfortable sharing, or some of the steps that they've taken? So, for instance, somebody's out there right now is really struggling. And this is the only time they're going to hear the gospel is through this podcast, is through you. The only time they're going to have hope in life. What are some steps that they can take, or that you've seen help people of all spectrums of life get through some of those really tough times?
And that's been a part of my story since in my early 20s. Growing up in Australia and starting my ministry, my work in Australia primarily, the two big sports there are Australian rules football and rugby, rugby league. Those are the two big sports. And early in my ministry life, God brought professional athletes from those spaces into my realm. I'd meet them at events I was speaking at. They would be invited by friends to churches I was speaking at, and I would develop these relationships. And so that it went from there to God opened up the door for me to journey with some UFC fighters early in the journey, and then I moved to the US and doing a lot of speaking in colleges, and college kids become NFL athletes have friends who are NFL athletes. So God has just brought some very fascinating, high capacity individuals into my journey. But I say the same thing to them as I say to the kid finishing off his accounting degree at Clemson University. God first. If you can center your life around God, everything stays in order. I always like saying, keep God as your sun, and then let your life revolve around that. And if God as your sun is always at the center point, there will always be a sense of gravity and correctness in weight as you're orbiting. You pull that out of your solar system, everything starts to discombobulate. And so I'll say it to a high-profile athlete, like I'll say it to somebody just starting out in their career. God first, because the Bible says when you seek God first, His kingdom and relationship with Him, everything gets added unto you. Everything gets stacked up right behind that. If you get that number one position out, nothing ever will be right. So if you're doing up a shirt, like a dress shirt in the morning, and you're going really quick, and you get to work and you find that you got the top two buttons out of whack,
and it's crooked.
Everything's crooked. Doesn't matter what you do, how you stretch it, everything is out of whack because the top button wasn't done right. If you don't get the God top button done right, it doesn't matter how hard you try, how gifted you are, how much great energy you have, how much great aura you give, nothing lines up. But if you get that right, then you get a chance to stack everything up right there. The second thing I always, tell guys, especially guys who are in the public eye, play sport at a very high level. You've got to create an environment for your soul and your mental health to thrive.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Okay, so because their lives are all centered around the physical, and they are uniquely predisposed to having profound imbalance in their life. We are made in God's image. We have a soul. Even people who don't believe in God recognize mind, body, and soul. The problem is, especially if you're in athletics, everything is about the body. Everything is about just being finely tuned. It's about your recovery. It's about nutrition. It's about peak performance. Everything is about body. It's about your performance on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon. It's all about that. And you neglect the mind and the soul. Then ironically, I would say right now for the professional athlete, even now the college semi-professional athlete, your greatest challenge doesn't happen on the 100 yards of grass. It happens with the non-stop stream of just noise that's trying to rob you of mental health and soul stillness.
Well, we've seen that with professional athletes who are the best at what they do on the field, cannot keep it together off the field. And I think that's one of the toughest parts in a young person's life and in a career, whether that's sport or not. In your career path, what are you doing to mentally keep yourself free? One of the things that I've found is I need to protect my time in the day for myself. And I was given everything I could to the career path, and growing up on the farm, I'm giving everything to the farm. The phrase sun up to sundown is real. That's how it was. You would go to sleep and then you'd do it again the next day. But what are you doing for everybody out there? What are you doing to protect time? I don't know what that amount of time is.
I love the fact that you brought up the farm. There's a discipline that you had sun up, sundown, because you don't get the luxury of, I want to sleep 3 more hours. I can't because the cows are moving. This is the time to milk. And we've got to get these things into the back because basically the people who are going to take this milk from us and pay us our money so that we keep food on the table are going to be here at 5 o'clock and they're not going to wait till 7. So there's this discipline because of what's involved or what's at stake. And again, athletes get that. I've seen 320-pound linemen doing yoga. They would never do that in and of itself, but because they understand how important flexibility is, they'll do something wild because they understand what's at stake.
That's a great scene to think about.
Yeah, it is. Because I've said that, these are images that are fresh in my head. I'm thinking about guys who complain like nothing else if we're playing golf in weather less than 62 degrees, but at the same time they'll jump into a cold tub because they can see what they're going to get out of it. So I always say that if you're going to be this disciplined to take care of your body, be equally or even more disciplined in taking care of your mind and your soul. Don't let the day happen to you. You happen to your day. Don't find yourself just trying to squeeze little bits and pieces in throughout the day to catch a breath. Make sure that to the best of your ability, you structure your day around these breaths.
Wow.
I tell young guys all the time about sleeping is going to be good because all the sports science guys are telling you that, but sleep is going to be great for you because you're going to be able to get up in the morning and then take ownership for the first 2 hours of your day. And this is what I do personally every single day. I wake up and there's a structure. The first thing that I do, I practice gratitude, and after that I practice servanthood, and then after that I lean into what God has got to say about me. I lean into what God thinks about me, and then I make positive faith confessions about what my day is going to look like. So every single day I follow this routine, and the guys that I mentor are all taken through that process as well. And so again, no names, but with a young guy that everyone watching this would definitely know who this person's name is. And I was hanging out earlier this summertime. I was speaking at some events in the city where he was playing. I stayed at his house, and I got up in the morning. I thought I was early for me. I'm up at 5:30. I'm starting this process, and he was sitting down there he was already halfway through the process.
Wow.
Because he was like at 4:45 already doing it. And this guy has an adversity, but the way he is processing adversity is totally different because of the way he's disciplining his time to take care of his mental and his soul health.
Wow. When you have people of that stature or people of not that stature, what is the biggest barrier that they have to get to do that process? Because I have a process similar. So when you were saying your morning routine, I'm like, all right, what can I pick up? What do I do? What can I learn and add to my process? What is the biggest mental barrier for young kids, for high-level athletes to get to that point? Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
You don't see the results right away, but you see the ramifications clearly. So when I'm telling a kid, hey, let's go do a chest workout together, they'll attack it and they'll do everything I tell them to do because they think there's a result. It's not really a result. They just got a pump in their chest. They're sitting there, it's super tight. They can feel some striation there. They're drinking a protein shake. They feel like they're growing. They'll get after that workout because they can feel the result quickly. You don't see the results of spending some time meditating in the morning, thinking about something positive from God again and again and again. You don't see the immediate results of making a decision to serve. The first thing I do. The second thing I do every morning is I serve my wife. We have this big coffee maker. She loves Melbourne style lattes, and it's a process. I'm talking about there's like kind of bean weighing, bean grinding, tamping, pressing, shot pulling, milk texture. There's everything, but I do it real slowly because I want. Hey, my first real activity of the day is not about me; it's to bless someone else. And so but you don't see the effects immediately because she takes the coffee, she says thank you very much, gives me a kiss. That's it. There's no real. The challenge with taking care of your mental is that you don't see the results immediately, but the ramifications could end your career.
It's profound.
We know that. We know people who just, their mind gave way before their body did. You know people in your life who aren't the same because of some stuff that became really unhealthy in their thought processes. And right now, even in your own journey, the anxiety that you feel, the weight you're experiencing, the panic attacks that you had, that people know these feelings, but they're only after. These are the ramifications. And I try to help young people and not so young people understand that this is, when it comes to mental health, prevention is so much better than cure. It is trying to help someone on the other side of the like when now they're in the deep valley of anxiety. It is so hard. And if you can create structure in your life, discipline in your journey, guardrails as you walk forward, so that you never end up in that valley, that is time well spent.
And from what you're saying, if you can establish that at a young age, how much further can you go?
Massively, yeah.
I listened to a guy who also everybody would know here if we said his name. I was listening to him speak in a private conversation. He said that compound interest is one of the eighth wonders of the world, if you will.
Yeah.
Can you compound your mind?
Yeah.
Because compound interest isn't always just about wealth and money. Compound interest is your mind. What if you start early? If you're out there listening right now and you're at a young age, you are in a perfect spot to start this because you're going to be able to compound a great mental routine, a great morning routine, a great gratitude practice over time, and you're going to be able to amplify, multiply what that looks like instead of not doing that right now. Instead of not doing that right now and trying to dig yourself out of the hole later on.
and the holes still happen, and life still punches you in the face, and stuff goes sideways. That's just life this side of eternity. But attacking something healthy and strong, dealing with whatever life throws your way with a healthy base is the way to do it. And so that's what I try to do. I journey with guys who, by the time I meet them, are already in a pretty bad space. You know, I'm as crazy as it sounds, I meet some freshman kids who are already burnt out from sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're freshmen,
Wow.
big recruits, so many expectations on them, but they're there as freshmen and they're fried. They're just expectations, the weight of, just people saying again and again and again, you're going to be great, you're going to do this, 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 and not knowing what to do with that, and then some of the dysfunction that comes from relationships with parents, with athletes, and that baggage that they come in with, and then for the first time, media attention at another level, and then at the same time you have like social media hatred like you've never experienced before, because you were the best in high school, and now all of a sudden like you can't start young enough in taking control of one of the few things you can take control of, and that is those first moments of your day. And then people are, well, I got like 6 o'clock workouts. That's great. That's
Get up earlier.
That's where you're not playing Call of Duty at midnight.
Yeah.
That's the reason you power down at 8 o'clock, because no one's doing. Your meetings are done at 8. Don't tell me that you know what I'm saying, unless it's like a Friday night before a game, unless it's like I'm telling you now, like so power down. You've been fed. Enjoy your TV show. Power down your personal devices. Dim the lights in your house at about 9. Let your body know that we're about to rest.
Wow.
And then if you're sleeping earlier, you're up at 5 and you've controlled the first hour. That's really I tell people, you can, how in sports, well, control the controllable. So you hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
What I've heard that talk so many times in different environments. What I haven't heard really well explained to people is, what does that mean? Like, what can you control? What can't you control?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows the line, but it isn't clearly defined in people's brains. These are the things that I can control. These things that are outside of my control.
Yeah. What does that look like? If you were gonna explain it, because like you said, it's not explained very well. If you were gonna explain that, obviously the morning routine is what we're talking about specifically.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you can control? That you can control the input. I was listening to Zig Ziglar, a speech from 30 years ago. And he was like, I got this new computer, and this computer stinks. Input and output, right? Like, what are people putting in? What can people control in so they can get better output?
I teach that those who control the controllables, become great. It's one of the marks of greatness. You read the biographies of great people, and there are never chapters like, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, then I gave up. Or this kind of happened to me, and so kind of like, did me dirty that way, so I was resentful forever. No, they control what they can control. Great, GREAT. Gratitude, taking responsibility, your personal effort, the attitude you carry into every space, and your teachability. And I tell that people all the time, like, you can't control the noise. People tell you that, you can turn off your phone. No one's turning off their phones, no one's disconnecting from social media. It's a lie, everyone's in it. So you can't control how loud life gets. You can't control results. It doesn't matter what the preseason poll's telling you. It doesn't matter what early Heisman odds are. No one knows.
Yeah, you have no idea.
You have no idea. You can't control that. You can't control people around you. People, coaches above you, teammates around you, the young people coming up after you. You can't control anything like that. But you can control how grateful you are for everything. I've never met a grumpy person who's grateful at the same time. You can control what you have responsibility over. This Doesn't matter if the person to my left and my right aren't doing their job. I'll do my job. I can control that, and I'll do it with maximum effort. I know when I'm giving my all and when I'm holding back. I can control giving my all. I can control my attitude. I set the temperature in every single thermostat, thermometer thing. Your attitude does that. I'm going to make it a point that when I walk into the room, if it needs to be cooled down, I can cool it. If it needs to be heated up, I can heat it up. It's my attitude. And I can be teachable. Like what I don't know, is unlimited. And I need to learn more. And if you're going to coach me hard, if you're going to say something wild to me, I'm going to find some kernels of truth in that. And I'm going to learn from that. So you can control that stuff. As well as that, as far as scheduling goes, you can control your schedule a lot more
massive
than you think. People use that as an excuse.
Busy.
I'm so busy. I'm so full. You look at the the schedules that, especially at a college level, like college schedules are wild. Because you got a kid here who's trying to study, keep up grades, effectively be engaged in some kind of rehab, prehab, meeting, practice, it's hours in the day. Yeah. And then, as well as that, here's a new reality. I'm a business guy as well. I'm a name, image, and I'm a likeness. So I've got business now, right? I still contend that, and I tell guys, because guys will tell me, Darren, I just don't have time for that. I say, great, that's great. That's cool. That's cool. You'll be an old man soon, and then one day you'll have, wait a second, no. Then it's going to be a wife to take care of, and then kids to take care of, and then a company to take care of, and then millions to take care of, maybe billions to take care of. Like if you at some point in your life don't take control of what you can control in your journey, then you're going to miss out. That's the reason the thing for me, like it's a big joke because I'll text good night to a lot of young guys who I know need to be.
It's like 7:30, like good night.
No, it'll be like a 9 o'clock good night as a joke, just going, hey, just take control of it.
Yeah.
Because you have control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everyone's patched in. Yeah, because they're making decisions that are going to impact their lives. Don't let their decision impact your life. So there's a lot more control in your time and your schedule.
Gosh, I love it. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thank you for valuing your time. You talk about being busy. You're a busy man. You have a lot on your schedule, but you still value time to impact everybody listening today. Impact my life. So I appreciate you.
No, I love you, and I'm just the thought of not even just young people watching this. Anyone who wants to squeeze more out of this gift that God has given us, that is life, and the time we've been given that doesn't get replayed. That is a valuable and a beautiful thing to invest into. So I love you, man. I love whoever gets to watch this or listen to this, and I just pray by the grace of God in the years ahead, God will amplify your voice to help people really think about how grand and precious a gift this life thing is. Make the most of it. Impact people, not to be remembered here on earth, but so your life will resonate in eternity. That's what we're doing this for.
Wow.
So you're doing it, man, and I hope we get to do this again.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Attitude for results. Let's inspire others and continue to grow together. Wow.
Peace.